Yo, Real Rap
You.
Coalition podcast. We back in this bitch, man. Y'all know what the fuck it is. Y'all see the title. We not gonna waste no time this time. People still on some bitch ass shit. So we here to bring you a detective tale as old as time itself. I am the head detective himself. Who else we got in the building?
Just a great detective, Detective F-Dub, and we back in this bitch. You already know what it is. Yeah.
All right, man. So this, well, I don't want to say this week, but like within the last week and some change, we watched 2009's Sherlock Holmes, starring Robert Downey Jr., Jude Law, and Rachel McAdams. Without like, comment, subscribe if you ain't already. Spoiler alert: we're gonna spoil the fuck out this movie. You know what I'm saying? But the non-spoiler version is Sherlock Holmes, accompanied by Watson, begins the movie taking down a criminal called Lord Blackwood, and he is set to hang for his dubious crimes, cult like stuff. And they are to ensure that this is, taken care of because Watson is getting married. This is his final case alongside Sherlock Holmes. So they go through everything is good. Well, I mean, except for him, because he ends up hanging and shit. Um,
Yeah,
so
I
they
think they
pronounce
said that
him dead, and then soon after, well, soon before, he gives Sherlock an ominous premonition that this shit ain't over. It's just starting, and some really bad shit is finna happen that he can't do nothing about. So he finally hangs and is pronounced dead and whatnot. Shortly after, they find out that in actuality, Blackwood appears to not be dead, and he has, or at least risen from the dead and is continuing his reign of terror. So they have to figure out what happened, how, a person could possibly come back from the dead and stop his plan before he ends up, killing thousands, I guess, is really the, because he's got a big evil plan, but we'll talk about that. Um, First impression thoughts, F Dub.
uh so one thing I would like to add is that before he gets hanged, Lord Blackwood, he had I guess he committed like six other deaths and whatnot. So he was already, being very nefarious, before he gets caught up at the start of the film. Um First impression. So man, is damn near one of the best performances by Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law. Man, this is actually one of my favorite movies. I haven't watched it in such a long time before being requested on this podcast, so I really enjoyed this movie. Um, very whimsical, I guess, for the lack of better words. But yeah, man, it just shows the versatility of Robert Downey Jr., because obviously, he had to use an accent that he ain't really have for this movie, you know what I mean? There's that and just develop certain mannerisms for the character of Sherlock Holmes and whatnot. But overall, I enjoyed the film, man. So
For our generation, the 2000s was a very big formative period for us. Things that are big in pop culture were getting adapted to movies, TVs, etc. And so, therefore, it kind of cemented people to be associated with things. And so, this was, to my knowledge, the first big screen adaptation, at least for our generation, of Sherlock Holmes. So, that's a lot of pressure. Robert Downey Jr. was already, soaring high on his acclaim. I believe they had done all three of the Iron Man movies by then, and they were like in the Avengers saga. Um,
oh
so
wow, I didn't know that.
yeah, he had
Yeah.
the first one happened in like 2000, maybe 2002, I don't know, but I believe all three had been done by 2009. But so he had some acclaim to his name. Um, I assume the Notebook had been done by 2009. So Rachel McAdams had some, star power to herself as well. There was a lot riding on this one, man. Um, the depiction of the character was important. The world building was very important. And well, okay, so that's the first thing. How did you feel about Robert Downey's portrayal of the world's most famous detective?
So it's actually kind of funny. When I was rewatching this movie, I was in my head, I'm thinking, did Sherlock Holmes really get active like this? Like, was he, what I mean, a specialist in combat? And obviously, we know about him being like super quick-witted and very, what I mean, very smart and whatnot, and very intellectual and all that, right? But I did not know he was, if this was really how, he was back in the day, I guess. Yeah, that kind of surprised the hell out of me. I didn't know he was such a combat specialist and versatile in that, and then just analyzes every move that he did right before before executing. So that that's actually kind of cool to me.
He yeah, like they start this movie off very well in terms of grabbing attention. You know, you're in like the midst towards the ending of a case at that point, and they do, the infamous thing that I haven't really seen done in many other movies, where it is the slow monologue where he's detailing how he's gonna fuck you up, and then you just watch it all happen in real time. You know what I'm saying? And like that shit is cold as a bitch. One thing that I like, obviously Robert Downey has such a wide range in terms of being able to act well. Um, but the thing is that like they did a good job portraying Sherlock Holmes, the character in this movie, in the way that like so, a good amount of people, because he's such a popular figure in pop culture, like they know about like, oh, he's a cold ass detective and he's whatever. But what they don't really like often realize is this motherfucker is just like a functional drug addict. You know what I'm saying? Like he's addicted to like a bunch of shit, and he is just like high functioning at his job, but he is fucking dependent most of his life. You know, and so like they do some shit there where like they have different times where like that motherfucker's drinking, solution for eye surgery and shit. Or like he's sitting in the dark just high as fuck, trying to figure out the case and all this shit. Like he is cool, but he is like cool in a way of like his capabilities. Like he's not cool as a person. You wouldn't want to be this guy,
Oh
you
no,
know?
without a without a doubt. Like a prime example, he can be kind of like somewhat of an asshole when the situation didn't call for, like when they were having dinner for with Watson and his soon to be wife and
Mary.
whatnot. They were married, or yeah, there you go. That was yeah, that was that was
Hey
kind of
man, I
fucked up.
don't know, bro. She insisted, man.
Yeah,
Like
she
I was
definitely
sitting
was
there.
asking for it.
Hey man,
Yeah.
I was sitting there. I was watching the movie with my girl, and she literally said the same thing. She was like, "Bitch, you insisted." I was like, "Yeah, I know. Like, I don't know how the fuck you get mad about this shit." But like, and he's very dependent upon Watson, and that's like, that's highlighted in this movie, both in a personal and a professional aspect. Like he, Watson is about to get married and all this, and he's finna leave, and like Holmes is having a fucking low key breakdown, about it. Like he's trying to sabotage it in all ways that he can, and like avoid, he basically tries to like avoid what's happening. Like he don't want to. He thinks that if he ignores it, it'll go away. But and then Watson, I think it's a good portrayal as well. Like he's so very important to like what Holmes is doing. Like Holmes is not, useless. He's not like I struggle to think right now, but there are characters that I've seen in popular media that like get carried by their sidekicks, and they're just actually, like they get all the credit. Um,
Mhm.
but like it's not one of those situations where he's not useless, but like he's like Watson is necessary in all aspects of the life. Like he has a regular practice whenever they're not, solving cases. Like he's actually a practicing doctor, so he keeps a roof over their head. He helps to make sure that like Holmes doesn't end up killing himself because he's a functioning drug addict and always fucking with a bunch of shit he ain't got no business fucking with. But he's also like, you know, you see he has like a gambling addiction, which is mentioned several times throughout this movie, and you know you see that as like a vice that he has. You know, I like that the characters are they're admirable, but they have their flaws. I like that that's one thing that they did in the portrayal of this movie. Um, Irene Adler is a bad bitch. You know, that's that's pretty clean. That you know Sherlock was out there just knocking that little redhead bitch off
Yeah, and also revealed that she was the only person that really outsmarted him like twice
three
in life.
times by
So,
the end of
oh,
the
three
movie.
times, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
three times. So
that
yeah,
shit.
she definitely her character was pretty cool as well. You know, what I mean,
Hey,
she definitely man,
pause,
she
but
a
that
funny character,
shit
man.
like that shit. Pause, but that shit funny as hell. Buddy was out there like he thought he had the drop on this bitch. That bitch drugged him, left his ass chained to the fucking bedposts and shit, just naked, stuck in the room. If that bitch wouldn't have came in there to like clean the room, his ass would have just been stuck there, boy. Like that's I don't know, man. That's the type of shit. That's why I don't be fucking with that shit with bitches, man. Like you're not finna handcuff me nowhere. I'm never finna be stuck nowhere. Fuck that.
Yeah, and
But
even though she she was because she definitely did some wild shit throughout the film. Like she was not no damn saint either. You know what I mean?
mm-mm,
You know what I mean? Spoilers for those that didn't. I guess if you're watching this this review, then we're obviously gonna get into very spoilers territory. But she's actually working with one of the main antagonists of the film, Moriarty.
mm-hmm.
And whatnot. He's like a very mysterious character in this film, but he truly gets expounded upon in the next film. But that's the topic for another review. She definitely wasn't no saint. You know, what I mean, she definitely is quick on her feet and whatnot. She has the ability to steal and whatnot, and definitely gave fucking Holmes and Watson some trouble throughout the film.
And
But
she's always looking for a come up. You know what I'm saying?
most
Like in
definitely.
every type of situation, like she's looking for the way she can benefit for it, you know, and they even have to like save her a couple times through this movie and shit because she, you know, being the strong independent woman archetype that she is, you know, she gets herself in over her head. Uh but I don't know, man. I think that so like I say, you you end up like I'm going to talk about this movie broadly. I think I'm getting an echo fireworks,
Oh
but
shit.
I'm gonna talk about the movie broadly. Then we'll get to like some specifics. Through this movie, there's a bunch of like Easter eggs and shit. I don't want to say Easter eggs. It's part of any good detective story that you've seen. You know, we watched Death on the Nile. It was on that shit. I've watched, you know, Glass Onion. I've watched, or well, Knives Out and Glass Onion, etc. Like these kind of things, you get pieces to a puzzle throughout, and you try to connect that shit the whole way through. And you know, like at the end, it's the big reveal generally by the main character. So throughout this movie, you get like pieces of different things that happen. You know, Holmes goes to like they find where Blackwood left, and he like broke a big fucking granite block that was over his tomb. And then they find, you know, in his grave is the fucking toothless midget that they were looking for and shit. You know, and then later on they're finding all different shit. You know, there's a fucking secret cult order, and they've got secret back rooms, and a motherfucker gets, you know, like dies in his bathtub of mysterious causes, all type of shit, right? So this movie does a good job of painting that like this is a very proficient detective in his field. However, he is being fucking terrorized by a man who had a 40-year plan type shit. You know what I'm saying? He made all these plans and shit. He planned ahead, and he told him, he said, "There's not gonna be nothing you can do." And despite his best effort, there really was nothing he could do about the next three people that were finna die. You know,
Mhm.
um, and so I think that like it's great. Like some suspense movies just piss me off. Like I'll be like, okay, let's get to the fucking point. But here, there's enough give and take throughout the way where you still see him doing brilliant things, but he's not solving the main case because he's not there yet. You know, and so I really appreciate that. The pacing of this movie is what I guess it boils down to. Is that like it never like it's a 2 hour movie and it doesn't feel like it drags
No, not
throughout.
at all. It definitely it definitely had a good pacing. So I can definitely yeah, if y'all know me, you feel me? I definitely harp on that throughout the podcast on multiple reviews about pacings of certain films and whatnot and why it can fuck up a good film. And this is not the case on this film. It definitely 2 hour movie and some change, like probably 2 hours and like 8 minutes or something like
Hmm.
along the lines. But no, the movie definitely just it it flew correctly, I guess, for the lack of better words. It was flowing. It was definitely flowing. So I can definitely appreciate that about this film. Um, most notably when, well, towards the end as well, when the big reveal gets, revealed and whatnot. So
I
so
think
shout
a
out to this
lot of
movie.
I think a lot of that is due to the charisma of the lead actor. I think that like he keeps things interesting through different, like some of it is the script, some of it is the script that he was given, and some of it is just his ability as an actor. Um, but yeah. So with that being said, so like the sub details of this movie, right? So Blackwood has come back to life, and he is behind the scenes, attempting to take over this cult that is, I can't remember the name of the fucking cult, but they do a bunch of like, behind the scenes dark magic type of shit, where the leader, or at least one of the heads, he ends up basically kidnapping Sherlock Holmes and asking for his help with a case which Holmes has figured out exactly what he wants help with before he ever asks him and shit. He also figures out where he went, like even with a bag over his head. So he's like, I don't know, this was all pointless. He really was just flexing on the motherfuckers. I ain't gonna lie to you.
It
Um,
really was, man. Really was.
hey, we'll find out at the end of this episode. Lights out, man. But F Dub said it's gonna be a goodie. So like I say, so Holmes deduces that like the guy who runs the cult and shit is the father of Lord Blackwood and shit, and that like he was a like behind part of the fuckery, like that order was like associated with the fuckery that Blackwood was doing, and so he agrees to take on the case and whatnot. So Blackwood ends up, killing his father basically in the fucking in a tub without like any real signs of anything happening to him. You don't know what's going on. He just fucking becomes paralyzed and drowns and shit in that bitch. Um, and he, then subsequently he plans to take over the order. Somebody like, decides to protest, like one of the next guys in line, and he spontaneously combusts into flames. So he's really doing some dark magic ass shit. So they have a whole lot of plot exposition that happens. Watch the movie, you'll enjoy it. At least I would hope you would. Um, a lot of that shit happens, and they find out that the big plan is that he is going to launch what is essentially a terrorist attack on Parliament. Where the most powerful men in England, where at that time that was most of the free world, because America was during the Civil War era at that point, so nowhere near as powerful as they are today. He plans on murdering a bunch of people within Parliament, and only the people who are a member of the order will be able to survive and will help him in his plan to take over England and then go, take over America and become a world superpower again. He
Most
plans to.
importantly, he was he was gonna use a biochemical machine that was being
Hmm.
built at the start of the film by the I guess the ginger midget that died and
Hmm.
got placed in Blackwood's coffin and whatnot. And I guess it was supposed to, at that time, it was supposed to revolutionize warfare. So that is essentially how he was gonna uh get rid of these people in Parliament and whatnot, and
Well, you
conduct
gotta
his
think
evil
like
deeds.
electricity wasn't that big of a thing at that point. You know, you see at one point Holmes is finna fight that big motherfucker, and he finds that like electric conducting, fork there, and he ends up like shocking Buddy, and that's like some new and wondrous equipment to them. But so that was a machine that he could control remotely, and it would send electrical waves, which was like unheard of at that time, as I said, and like convert some shit in a fucking cylinder to toxic gas. It would, they were essentially pioneering gas warfare at that point with like remote control capabilities. So I mean, at that point, that was cold as a bitch. But yeah, so Holmes has to attempt to like him and Watson have to attempt to stop some of the most powerful men in the world from being murdered and their country being took over. So there's a whole, like I say, there's a whole bunch of subplots. There's, things with Watson and Mary and Holmes having to come to grip with this might be, the end of his adventuring days with his sidekick. You know, um, there's different things with you know, Irene Adler has her own fucking things that she's working on, her own agenda, but it all kind of ties in, and like Holmes is trying to like stop her from, getting herself fucked up, fucking around with some shit she ain't got no business doing. There's a lot of things that happen there, but I don't really feel like there's a couple of scenes, like in particular that I would like to speak about. Obviously, the boxing scene is cold as a bitch because we see that little shit at the beginning, but he literally, like, I think that is the apex of that style of thing where, like, he just, like, he's in there just boxing and shit, just, hand to hand combat, drunk as fuck, fucking around in that hoe. And he's like, all right, I'm done with this shit. You win, such and such. But he spits at the back of his head and he beats the dog shit out him, man. Like,
Yeah,
he
and it
literally
was
like
cold as
he's talking
fuck.
about, yeah, like you know two bruised ribs, three cracked, one, like a broken jaw, a dislocated this and that, and he was like capacity to spit it back of head neutralized. He was like physical recovery 6 weeks, emotional recovery 6 months.
6 months.
I was like, boy, he's flexing on this dude. And it got so quiet, bro. Like he beat the shit out, buddy. Everybody got quiet and pissed, and he just walked up, took the bread, and left. Like he was
Took a
literally
bottle
betting
too.
on himself, bro. Like he was betting on himself because he gave Watson some of the money and shit. Like he said, he made the customary bet upon himself. They was like, bro, he was gambling in the fucking fight pit for the rent money and shit.
Which is funny because like if it really ever came down to it, right? Like Holmes really could have just made a killing, and just just fought, to be honest,
Yeah,
and made some hella riches because of the way he was super analytical with that move set. like like yeah, man, the
even
way he broke
before
it
in the
down.
fight, bro, he wasn't even like he was just toying with Buddy. Buddy was sitting there throwing blows and shit. He was slapping him away, slapping him on his neck and his face and shit. Like
Yeah,
he
but
wasn't.
he definitely took some heavy punches though. He definitely got some crap beaten out of him though.
Hell yeah.
Right before that that analytical moment that he had. That was cold as shit, man. Yeah, man. That was actually a pretty cool art direction for the film, for real, for real. I really fuck with that.
Yeah, I
We don't
think that's
really.
really creative. I hadn't seen anything like that, especially not in '09.
Yeah, most definitely. So that was, shout out to the directors and everyone else who came up with that idea. That was actually pretty dope. So
I liked the scene where like Holmes is in the whatever that is, an attic or whatever, and he's got like he makes a big fucking pentagram or whatever with some candle wax. He's got different shit spread across the little diagram and shit, and he basically just is high as fuck in there, tripping out about all his failures and trying to like unravel this case. I think that was really well shot artistically. Like they had the darkness and the fucking illusions and all that shit. I
yeah,
think
I
it was
agree.
really well.
That was a good shot. Speaking of which, the movie is very beautiful, man. I do like the scenery and the locations they chose for this film. I thought it was very well shot. I know some parts were definitely CGI, specifically like the boat scene when they were trying to get away from that giant ass French dude. And then obviously towards the end when he has Lord Blackwood hanging on the little platforms and whatnot. That
Mhm.
yeah, but the movie was definitely beautifully shot. So yeah, another good credit for the film. So, and this is 2009, 2009. So that's yeah.
And then, like I say, the last you got to echo again, lift up.
Oh,
But
my fault, my fault.
the last scene that I want to like give credit to, well, before we talk about the ending, is they had the, you had the scene where Holmes is there and he's been brought to, whatever that guy was within the legal system and shit. He's like brought by the fucking captain of the police or whatever there, and like he ends up closing the fucking chimney and the room fills with smoke. And Buddy's like, he's loading a gun, he's ready to kill him and shit, and like handle their business and shit. But he ends up playing the fuck out dude so crazy, bro. Like he let the room fill up with smoke so he'll open the window. Then he goes and locks the door and shit. He knows he got one way out. In the middle of the fucking smoke, he undoes his handcuffs, slide them bitches on the floor, and he like just starts taunting dude. And he literally just runs and jumps out the fucking window into the waiting river or whatever that shit is below. Like that shit is so fucking clean, bro. Like the aesthetic of, seeing him like pop out through the smoke and shit, you can hear his voice, but you can't tell where he is type shit. Like,
Yeah, and then just his quick wittiness in that scene as well, like him observing the environment and then just coming up with that idea on the fly. That was pretty dope. That was well done as well.
and then he's like, he was analyzing the way that like Buddy was looking. He was like, yeah, you got a cut on your thumb where, you've been vowing, you've been kneeling somewhere, you've been praying, such and such on your shoes. Like, oh shit. I don't know, man. Might be the goat.
Yeah, for real, man.
But so like I say, you get to the ending and whatnot, and long story short, the like Holmes, Watson, and Irene are able to stop the fucking chemical weapon from going off. So Blackwood, there becomes like a fucking, not a riot, but an uprising within Parliament, and his followers are wondering what happened. He runs off and shit. So Irene ran off with the bio weapon because, as I said, she's always looking for a come up for herself. Holmes is chasing her. Blackwood's chasing her. They end up at the top of a platform of what is essentially an unfinished bridge at the time and shit. You know what I'm saying? And Blackwood basically like gets on that bitch ass, man. He goes like he's finna push that bitch off the edge of the platform and whatever the fuck. And Holmes is trying to stop him, but she ends up getting pushed off. She falls to the safety of a lower platform and whatnot. And then him and Holmes get to scrapping. He's got like a sword, and then like they got like a cane and shit. Like they're fighting it out over there, whatever. And Holmes just basically like outsmarts him all the way through that shit. You know, some shit ends up like attached to his ankle, like or with a chain or whatever, and is trying to like drag him off. Down to what is essentially his death. And so this is where Holmes, breaks down all the shit. He's like, okay, you got out the like you got out the tomb, or like you faked your death first off. Uh, that's clear and evident. He's like the sandstone, whatever shit that was over your tomb. That shit was broken and glued back together with some shit that dissolved in the rain and cracked. You know what I'm saying? He was like, you set a motherfucker got set up to where like they thought they was walking through rain and it was actually a flammable liquid. You gimmicked a bullet and made him light himself on fire. You know what I'm saying? Yo, pops, like you had like some chemical that combined with the water and the copper in his tub to make him paralyzed and shit. And as soon as they drain the water, there's no evidence left over. He's talking about like all type of shit. Like even through, whenever they first got to the midget house and shit, he's like, yeah, you know, there's different paralytics you used on the frogs and shit, and you know, there's like all this stuff, this gas that you distilled in the bellies of pigs and shit. That's where they were at the butcher house and shit. Like it all connects throughout the whole movie, and I think it's like it's probably one of the coldest and my favorite like ending sequences throughout. Um, like where he just kind of like basically lets a motherfucker know like it may have took me a little bit, but I've figured all this shit out. And like I say, he decides to, you know, save him from being drug off by whatever that shit was. He gets up and he looks like he's finna attack again, and you know, some heavy shit ends up breaking, you know, with some chains and shit, breaks the platform. He falls into a what is essentially a bed of chains below him, and looks up just in time to see some heavy shit falling and wrap him up in those chains and essentially hang him as the fucking crow or buzzard or whatever that shit is crows for an absolutely fantastic cinematic shot. Like,
Yeah, I definitely agree. So throughout the film, for the viewers that are a little lost, Lord Blackwood, okay, horrible name by the way, but he
facts.
claimed he essentially was trying to masquerade as this divine entity or some sort of a person with you know, superhuman powers essentially, or just otherworldly abilities and whatnot, and he kind of was masquerading that whole act throughout the film. So that whole little breakdown at the end of the film was Holmes just trying to call him a fake essentially, and you know what I mean, he was essentially highlighting the fact that Blackwood was using fear of the unknown to scare everyone that he came in contact with and whatnot, just to prove that he's like some sort of divine, you know, entity to everyone and whatnot. So that was a yeah, I agree, KTL. That was definitely a dope little breakdown from scene to scene, and yeah, man, it really so Black Lord Blackwood, goodness gracious. Um he was, you can kind of say that he was just as low key kind of on par as smart as Holmes, because he really all he really did was just use science, you feel me, to commit his crimes and
Yeah,
to put his
and
plots
fucking like paranoia,
into
you know,
effect.
public perception. Like he created a like fucking narrative about what he was, and then he weaponized it. You
Yeah, which
know.
is like as a villainous type of way to move. I think that was pretty cold as well. Someone that gave Holmes, you know, like a essentially a run for his money. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was brilliantly written in my opinion. So yeah. Shout out to the writers for that one.
Yeah. So like I say, and then the movie, you know, ends. He like Holmes explains how a motherfucker survived the hanging and shit. You know, he had like a special latch and whatnot, where like the weight would be distributed across his chest instead of like breaking his neck and shit. He had a little paralytic, you know, type of thing that he like where it would seem like he wasn't breathing, he didn't have a pulse and shit. You know, he had a whole plan for that shit. So we see the movie end where you know, Watson and Mary are basically finna go off and do their own thing now, and Holmes gets told about, you know, a murder that happened while they were discussing the, you know, like while they were solving the case, and it's linked back to, you know, well, I don't know if they actually said it, I can't remember, but Holmes knows that it's connected to Moriarty, so the case is open, you know, and onward to the next one we go. And I mean, that's a great ending, I think, to tie all that shit together.
One
Uh,
more thing, KTO. So throughout the film, we hear about Adler's little goals and missions and whatnot from Moriarty. Her main goal, I guess, was to steal some sort of piece of from that biochemical machine that was built for
Facts.
Lord Blackwood. So, and at the end of the movie, it does get revealed that Moriarty ends up getting his hands on this little piece of the machine. So, you know, which sets up the plot, I guess, for the next film. So very well done as well. So,
That's a fact. I don't really have much else that I can, say about this shit other than the final thoughts. Is there anything else you want to discuss?
no, man, I think we covered the film. So yeah, we can get to the final thoughts.
All right, you want me to go first? You want to go first?
You can go first, Kid.
I picked this movie because I thoroughly enjoyed. I do feel like it is arguably the greatest detective movie I've ever seen. Which, of course, being the character that they base it off of, they had a lot of things to live up to. So, with that being said, Robert Downey Jr. shows that he can, be things other than Iron Man and create a box office success. He delivers a portrayal of this character that is both awe-inducing and a bit sympathetic. I feel like he ends up going through trials and tribulations and whatnot as this character with all these capabilities and whatnot, but he can't do anything. Like he's in a game, he's in a chess game that he is three moves behind until the end. So I think that that's a great way to tell that story because it truly is a big conundrum is how do you stump somebody who has all the answers? You ask the questions before they can answer them. So, like I say, with that being said, I think that it was a fantastic portrayal by everybody in there. I can't think of somebody who had a bad like performance, I guess. The plot line is interesting. The cinematography is good. Um, I don't have a whole lot bad to say about this movie. I'll probably give it like a nine. I think that this is like I think it's a movie deserving of like around a nine. Like I maybe there could be some better things, but I thoroughly enjoy the movie, and I would watch it at any point in time. With a bitch or whoever.
That's funny, man. All right, man. So I am very much in agreement with you. This is a fantastic film. The name of the game is versatility, and Robert Downey Jr. Definitely showed his versatility in this film, as I mentioned at the beginning of the review, from the accent to I mean to mannerisms of Holmes to I could go on and on and on. But I think he played the character very well. I actually did not know that he had that like the expectations for him to play Holmes were very high. I did not know that, so that was an interesting fact for real, for real. But if there were, he succeeded them, in my opinion. Um, I think that Jude Law, his supporting actor in this film, definitely deserves a lot of credit. Not only that was he his right hand man in this film, Watson. He held his own, man, for real, and he also provided a lot of comedy into his character as well. A lot of funny moments in this film that we actually did not touch on, unfortunately, but we yeah, man. So shout out Jude Law and whatnot. Shout out Rachel McAdams as well. She did her thing in this film as well. So yeah, no, there was no slouch in this film at all. Everyone came correct. Everyone played their part. The film was fantastic. I agree. I would watch this again, most definitely. I think this is a film that really doesn't get old. Um, it's 2024. This and the movie was made in 2009, I believe you said. Yeah, man, yeah, it holds up. It holds up right from the cinematography to even the small bits of CGI that they had to use for certain films. Overall, a great experience. Rewatching this, I didn't get bored at all. 2 hour film, but it flowed very beautifully. So, yeah, man, very minimal complaints on this shit. Um, yeah, man, I agree with the rating as well. That is why I'm also giving it a 9 out of 10. So shout out
Yeah,
everyone
easy
involved into this
math.
film. Shout out to yeah, the directors of this film for making the vision alive, and shout out Robert Downey Jr., man. He still remains as one of the coldest actors to this day. And yeah, man. Shout out Jude Law.
All right, F Dub. The fans have been wondering what
All
is
right.
next week's movie.
All righty then. So um this. this pick that I'm about to toss out there was definitely in debates for the one and two spot when it came to picking my previous film. So it didn't win the number one spot, but it definitely won the second spot. And that being said, it's going to be 2014's Birdman, right? Starring Michael Keaton. Yes, we have the return of Michael Keaton again on the podcast. Why? Well, I don't know. I don't know why, but he was very, very active between 2014 and 2015. So, this
This
was
shit about the
another.
motherfucker behind Cash Money Records.
I see what you did there, man. But no, not that. That'd be crazy though if they chose Michael
Michael
Keaton for that.
Keaton
That'd be kind of
playing
crazy.
fucking Birdman.
But no, man, this is Birdman. True, and being very truthful, I have not watched this film at all, so this is going to be a very first for me. But I do know that this is another one of Michael Keaton's more prominent roles and very award winning, if you will. So I'm excited to watch this. Never watched it before, so like I said, this is gonna be a first for me, and it's good to see, the return of Michael Keaton, man. Someone that we rarely have on the podcast. You know, what I mean, it's good to shine the light on different stars, and yeah, man, I think Michael Keaton is well deserving on that one. So
I hope that this is a good movie. You know, like motherfuckers just taking animal names and putting man behind it. I remember motherfuckers was trying to suggest some ass shit called Monkey Man and shit. Like,
I have no idea who the fuck requested that, but yeah, shame on you, whoever did that shit.
hey man, lights out. All right, man. Real Rap Coalition podcast. That's another episode, man. We'll be back with Birdman here. Hopefully soon. Uh, thank
Hopefully soon,
y'all
man.
for thank y'all for showing up. Thank y'all for supporting. Thank y'all for subscribing. Real Rap Coalition podcast out.
Main character energy, man. We out of here.